The hot coffee hit my chest before I even saw it coming. One moment I was walking down the executive hallway of Robinson Tech Industries, my turquoise blouse crisp and professional, my heels clicking against the marble floor. The next moment I was soaking wet, the scalding liquid seeping through the fabric and burning my skin. I gasped, more from shock than pain, and looked up to see who had just assaulted me in my own company. She was young. Maybe 23, 24 at most. Blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, blue eyes wild with something between rage and triumph. I recognized her vaguely as one of the new interns in the marketing department. Brittany something. I'd seen her around for the past few months but never paid much attention. Now she was standing in front of me, an empty coffee cup in her hand, chest heaving like she'd just run a marathon. "You need to leave," she said, her voice shaking but loud. So loud that people were starting to peek out of their offices. "This is my husband's company. You don't belong here anymore." I stood there, coffee dripping from my blouse onto the expensive carpet, and just stared at her. My mind was trying to process what she'd just said. Her husband's company. Her husband. I was married to Gabriel Robinson, CEO and founder of Robinson Tech Industries. We'd been married for 15 years. We'd built this company together, from a garage startup to a multi-million-dollar corporation. I was the CFO. My name was on the building. And this girl, this intern, was claiming my husband was hers. The hallway had gone completely silent. At least a dozen employees were watching now, some with phones out, probably recording. Perfect. Just perfect. I took a slow breath, feeling the hot coffee cooling against my skin. My first instinct was to scream, to grab this girl by her ponytail and demand answers. But I'd learned a long time ago that losing control in public was never the answer. Especially not in a building full of people who worked for me. Instead, I carefully reached into my purse, which had somehow survived the coffee attack, and pulled out my phone. My hands were steady. I was proud of that. I scrolled through my contacts, found the name I was looking for, and pressed call. It rang twice before he picked up. "Natalie? I'm in a meeting, can this wait?" Gabriel's voice was distracted, slightly annoyed. "No," I said calmly, my eyes locked on Brittany's face. She was starting to look less confident now, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. "It cannot wait. You should come down here to the executive hallway. Your new wife just threw coffee all over me." There was a long pause on the other end. "Too long." "What?" Gabriel finally said, but his voice had changed. The annoyance was gone, replaced by something else. Fear maybe. Or guilt. "You heard me," I said, still in that same calm voice that was taking every ounce of my self-control to maintain. "There's an intern here named Brittany who seems very convinced that she's Mrs. Robinson. I thought you might want to clear up this confusion. Unless, of course, there's something you need to tell me." Another pause. Longer this time. "I'll be right there," he said, and the line went dead. I lowered the phone and looked at Brittany again. She was pale now, all that earlier bravado draining out of her face. Good. She should be scared. "He's on his way," I told her, my voice carrying down the hallway so everyone could hear. "Let's wait together, shall we?" I walked past her, coffee still dripping from my clothes, and leaned against the wall. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, but I kept my expression neutral. People were still watching. This was going to be all over the office in minutes, probably all over social media within the hour. I needed to hold it together. Brittany stood frozen in the middle of the hallway, the empty coffee cup still clutched in her hand. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closed it again. Smart girl. Nothing she said right now was going to make this better. The elevator dinged. Gabriel stepped out and I watched his face as he took in the scene. Me soaked in coffee, standing against the wall with my arms crossed. Brittany looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her. The dozen or so employees pretending they weren't staring while absolutely staring. He was handsome, my husband. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair starting to gray at the temples in that distinguished way some men managed. He was wearing the navy suit I'd bought him for his birthday last year. He looked successful, powerful, like a man who had everything figured out. He also looked terrified. "Natalie," he started, walking toward me. "Let me explain." "Don't," I said, holding up one hand. "Not here. Not in front of everyone." I pushed off the wall and started walking toward his office, not waiting to see if he would follow. I knew he would. Behind me, I could hear Brittany starting to cry, and Gabriel's low voice telling someone to take her to HR. Too little, too late. His office was at the end of the hall, a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I'd helped him pick out the furniture, the artwork on the walls, the expensive desk he'd insisted he needed. I walked in and stood in the middle of the room, not sitting, not making myself comfortable. This wasn't my space anymore. Maybe it never had been. Gabriel came in and closed the door behind him. For a long moment we just looked at each other. How long? I asked. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he was stressed. Natalie, please let me. How long, Gabriel? 6 months, he said quietly. 6 months. Half a year. While I'd been managing the company finances, attending his business dinners, sleeping in his bed, he'd been sleeping with an intern young enough to be his daughter. I felt something crack inside my chest, but I didn't let it show on my face. I just nodded. Does she really think she's your wife? I asked. Or was that just dramatics? Gabriel closed his eyes. I might have told her that you and I were separated, that we were getting divorced. Interesting, I said. Since I only found out about our separation about 5 minutes ago. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he said, and he actually had the nerve to sound upset about it. She wasn't supposed to say anything. I was going to tell you. I was waiting for the right time. The right time, I repeated. When was that going to be, Gabriel? When you got her pregnant. When you married her. When exactly was the right time to tell me you've been cheating on me for half a year? He stepped toward me and I held up both hands. Don't, I said. Don't come near me. Don't touch me. Don't anything. My voice was starting to shake now and I hated it. I hated that he could still affect me like this. I hated that 15 years of marriage could be destroyed by 6 months with someone else. I hated all of it. I'm calling Patricia, I said, referring to Patricia Holmes, the best divorce attorney in the city and coincidentally a friend of mine. I'm going to a hotel. I'll have someone pack my things from the house tomorrow. Natalie, wait, Gabriel said, and now he looked panicked. Please, can we just talk about this? Maybe we can work something out. Marriage counseling or... I laughed. Actually laughed. It came out harsh and bitter, not like my laugh at all. Work something out? I said. Gabriel, you've been sleeping with an intern for 6 months. An intern who just threw coffee on me in front of half the office. An intern who thinks she's your wife. There's nothing to work out. We're done. I walked past him toward the door, and this time he didn't try to stop me. Maybe he could see it in my face that there was no going back from this. Maybe he was just a coward. Either way, I made it to the door before he spoke again. I'm sorry, he said. I never meant to hurt you. I turned back to look at him one last time. He was standing in the middle of his big office in his expensive suit, looking lost. That's the thing, Gabriel, I said. I don't think you thought about me at all. Then I walked out, through the hallway where people quickly pretended to be working, past the elevator where Brittany was still sobbing with someone from HR, and out into the parking garage. My car was where I'd left it this morning when I'd arrived at work like any other day, thinking my biggest problem would be the quarterly reports. I got in, closed the door, and finally let myself feel it. All of it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the rage. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white and I screamed. Just once. One long, primal scream that left my throat raw. Then I started the car and drove away from Robinson Tech Industries. Away from the company I'd helped build. Away from the husband I'd loved. Away from the life I'd thought was mine. I didn't look back. I drove for 20 minutes before I realized I had no idea where I was going. My hands were still shaking on the steering wheel, and the coffee had dried into a sticky mess on my blouse. I could smell it, sweet and artificial, mixed with the scent of my own perfume. Made my stomach turn. Everything made my stomach turn right now. I pulled into a shopping center parking lot and sat there with the engine running, staring at nothing. My phone was ringing. Gabriel. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined again. The third time I turned it off completely. The sun was too bright. Everything was too bright, too normal, too ordinary. People were walking past my car with shopping bags, laughing, living their regular lives. Meanwhile, mine had just exploded into 1,000 pieces. I needed to think. I needed to plan. I was good at planning. That's what I did. I was the CFO of a multi-million-dollar company. I managed budgets and projections and financial strategies. Surely I could manage this. First things first. I needed to change my clothes. I looked down at myself and felt a fresh wave of humiliation. The coffee stain had spread across my entire torso, brown and ugly against the turquoise fabric. I looked exactly like what I was. Someone who'd been attacked and humiliated in her own workplace. There was a department store across the parking lot. I grabbed my purse and walked in, trying to ignore the stares from other shoppers. In the women's section, I found a simple green blouse and a pair of black pants. I paid cash, changed in the fitting room and threw the coffee-stained clothes in the trash. When I looked at myself in the fitting room mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. Her jaw was set. She looked angry. She looked dangerous. Good. I turned my phone back on in the parking lot. 17 missed calls from Gabriel. 3 from numbers I didn't recognize. And 1 from Rachel Chin, my best friend since college. Rachel. Of course. The office gossip mill must have reached her already. She worked in the legal department, just 3 floors down from where the coffee incident had occurred. I called her back. "Oh my God, Natalie," she answered immediately. "I just heard. Are you okay? Where are you?" "I'm fine," I said automatically, then stopped. No, I'm not fine. "Rachel, I need your help." "Anything," she said without hesitation. "What do you need?" "Patricia Holmes's direct number. And a hotel recommendation. Somewhere nice. Somewhere expensive. I'm going to make Gabriel pay for it." There was a pause, then Rachel's voice came back, fierce and supportive. "That's my girl. I'll text you both right now. And Natalie? I'm so sorry. Gabriel is a complete idiot." "Yeah," I said, feeling something loosen in my chest. "He really is." The hotel Rachel recommended was downtown, a sleek high-rise with a rooftop bar and rooms that cost more per night than most people made in a week. I checked in using the company credit card. Our company credit card. The one Gabriel and I both had access to as executives. If he wanted to argue about it later, he could try. The room was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city skyline. A king-sized bed with crisp white sheets. A marble bathroom with a soaking tub. I stood in the middle of all that luxury and felt nothing. No, that wasn't true. I felt empty. Like someone had scooped out my insides and left just a shell standing there. I sat on the edge of the bed and called Patricia Holmes. "Natalie Robinson." Patricia's smooth voice came through the phone. "I was wondering when I'd hear from you. I assume this is about what happened at your office today?" Of course she'd already heard. Patricia made it her business to know everything that happened in our city's business community. "You assume correctly," I said. "How fast can you file for divorce?" "How fast do you want me to?" "Yesterday." Patricia chuckled, but it wasn't a warm sound. "I can have papers ready by tomorrow morning. But Natalie, we should meet first. Talk strategy. This isn't going to be a simple divorce. You're co-founder of Robinson Tech. You have significant assets to protect." She was right. I'd been so focused on the emotional devastation that I hadn't fully processed the financial implications. Gabriel and I had built Robinson Tech together. I'd been there from the beginning, managing every dollar, making the financial decisions that had turned a garage startup into a successful company. I owned 40% of that company. Gabriel owned 51%. The remaining 9% was divided among early investors. This was going to get complicated. "Can you meet me now?" I asked. "I'm at the Meridian Hotel downtown." "Give me an hour," Patricia said. "And Natalie? Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, and don't talk to Gabriel without me present. Understand?" "Understood." I hung up and stood, walking to the window. From 17 floors up, the city looked clean and orderly. Tiny cars moved through tiny streets. Tiny people lived their tiny lives. None of them knew that my world had just ended. My phone buzzed with a text. "Gabriel, please talk to me. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We've been together for 15 years. That has to mean something." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. It meant everything. Until it meant nothing. "Don't contact me again. All communication goes through my attorney." His response came immediately. "Who's your attorney?" "Patricia Holmes." There was a long pause before his next message. "You're serious about this?" I didn't respond. What was there to say? Of course I was serious. Did he think I was going to forgive him? Did he think I was going to smile and pretend the last 6 months hadn't happened? Did he think I was going to share him with Brittany, the intern who'd thrown coffee on me and claimed to be his wife? Another text came through. "What about the company? We built this together, Natalie. You can't just walk away." There it was. The real concern. Not our marriage. Not 15 years together. The company. I typed slowly, carefully. "You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with an employee. See you in court." Then I blocked his number. Patricia arrived exactly 1 hour later, carrying a sleek leather briefcase and wearing a red power suit that probably cost more than my car payment. She was in her mid-40s, with dark haircut and a sharp bob and eyes that missed nothing. We sat at the small table by the window and she pulled out a legal pad and pen. "Tell me everything," she said. Start from the beginning. So I did. I told her about the coffee, about Brittany's declaration, about Gabriel's admission of a 6-month affair. I told her about our finances, about my role in the company, about the assets we'd accumulated over 15 years of marriage. Patricia took notes, her expression neutral and professional. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. "How are you holding up?" she asked, and for the first time, there was something like sympathy in her voice. "I'm angry," I said honestly. "I'm hurt. I'm humiliated. But I'm also relieved in a strange way." "Relieved?" "I didn't know," I said slowly, working through the thought as I spoke. "For 6 months I didn't know. I thought everything was fine. I thought we were happy. But now that I know, I can see things more clearly. The late nights at the office. The business trips that seemed longer than necessary. The way he'd been distant lately, distracted. I thought it was just work stress. But it wasn't. It was her." "That's common," Patricia said. "Partners often don't see the signs until after the affair is revealed. Then everything clicks into place." "I feel stupid," I admitted. "Don't," Patricia said firmly. "You trusted your husband. That's not stupid. That's what marriage is supposed to be. He's the one who violated that trust. Not you." I nodded, feeling something ease in my chest. She was right. I hadn't done anything wrong. This wasn't my fault. "So," Patricia said, returning to business. "Here's what I'm thinking. You have a strong case for a substantial settlement. You're a co-founder with significant equity in the company. You've been married for 15 years. And Gabriel had an affair with an employee, which could open the company up to liability. That gives us leverage." "I don't want to go back to Robinson Tech," I said. "I can't work with him. Not after this." "You don't have to," Patricia assured me. "But you need to decide what you want. Do you want to sell your shares back to the company? Sell them to an outside investor? Keep them and remain a silent partner? How much are they worth?" Patricia pulled out her phone and did some quick calculations. "Based on the company's last valuation, your 40% stake is worth approximately $8 million. $8 million. I sat back in my chair, feeling dizzy. I'd known the company was valuable, of course, but hearing the number said out loud was different. That was my money. Money I'd earned by working 16-hour days, by making smart financial decisions, by building something from nothing. "I want to sell," I said. "I want out completely. Can we force Gabriel to buy me out?" "We can try," Patricia said. "But he might not have the liquid assets to do it. We might need to structure a payment plan, or bring in outside investors." "I don't care how we do it," I said. "I just want out. I want my money, and I want to never have to see his face again." Patricia smiled, and it was sharp and satisfied. "Then that's what will get you." We spent the next 2 hours going over every detail of my marriage and finances. Patricia was thorough, asking questions I hadn't even thought of. What about the house? The cars? The retirement accounts? The vacation home in Aspen we'd bought 3 years ago? By the time she left, my head was spinning with information and legal terms. But I also felt something I hadn't felt in hours, a sense of control. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't a victim. I was a woman with resources, with options, with a plan. Gabriel had thrown away our marriage for 6 months with an intern. Fine. He'd made his choice. Now he was going to pay for it. I spent that first night at the Meridian Hotel staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brittany's face. That moment of triumph before she threw the coffee. The way she'd said, "my husband's company," like she had any right to it. The tears later, when she realized Gabriel wasn't going to swoop in and save her. I wondered what he'd told her. What promises he'd made to get her into bed. Did he tell her I was cold? Distant? Did he paint himself as the victim of a loveless marriage? Did he promise to leave me for her? The questions circled in my brain like vultures, picking at my sanity. At 3 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and ordered room service. Expensive room service. A steak dinner with all the sides, a bottle of wine that cost $200, and a slice of chocolate cake for good measure. When it arrived, I sat at the table by the window and ate slowly, methodically, forcing myself to taste each bite. The food was excellent. I barely noticed. Outside, the city never slept. Even at this hour, lights blazed in office buildings and cars moved through the streets. Somewhere out there, Gabriel was probably awake too. Maybe with Brittany. Maybe alone. I hoped he was miserable. My phone buzzed on the table. For a moment, I thought it might be Gabriel calling from a different number, but it was Rachel. "Still awake," her text said. "Can't sleep," I replied. "Me neither. Want company?" 20 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. Rachel stood there in sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, holding a bag from the convenience store downstairs. "I brought ice cream," she said. "And vodka." I wasn't sure which emergency protocol to follow. I laughed, surprising myself. Both. Definitely both. We sat on the hotel bed, eating ice cream straight from the container and taking turns with the vodka bottle like we were 20 years old again instead of women in our late 30s. "I can't believe he did this," Rachel said for the 5th time. "I mean, I know men cheat. But Gabriel? He always seems so steady. Boring even." "Apparently boring husbands cheat too," I said, hearing the bitterness in my own voice. Rachel reached over and squeezed my hand. "Tell me what you need. Do you need me to slash his tires? His car? I know a guy who knows a guy who could make his life very difficult." "Tempting," I said. "But Patricia says I need to stay above board. No doing anything that could be used against me in the divorce." "Patricia Holmes is representing you?" Rachel's eyes widened. "Well, Gabriel is screwed. That's the plan." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, passing the vodka bottle back and forth. Then Rachel said quietly, "Are you okay?" "Really?" I considered the question. Was I okay? My marriage had ended. My career at the company I'd helped build was probably over. My husband had been sleeping with someone else for half a year. I was living in a hotel, eating ice cream at 3 in the morning, drinking vodka straight from the bottle. "No," I said honestly. "I'm really not okay. But I will be. Eventually." "That's the spirit," Rachel said, raising the vodka bottle in a toast. "To eventually being okay." "To eventually being okay," I echoed, and we drank. Rachel left around 5 in the morning, when the sky was just starting to lighten. I finally managed to fall asleep for a few hours, and when I woke up it was almost noon. My phone was full of notifications. More calls from Gabriel, texts from coworkers offering sympathy or asking for the gossip, and 3 emails from Patricia. I ignored everything except Patricia's emails. The first one contained draft divorce papers. I read through them carefully, my business training kicking in. Patricia had included everything we'd discussed. Division of assets, my equity stake in the company, spousal support, and a clause about Gabriel's infidelity. The second email was a list of things I needed to gather. Financial records, tax returns, documentation of my contributions to Robinson Tech, any evidence I had of Gabriel's affair. The third email was short and to the point. "Meet me at my office at 2 p.m. We have work to do." I showered, dressed in the new clothes I'd bought yesterday, and took a cab to Patricia's office downtown. She had an entire floor in one of the city's most prestigious buildings, with a view that rivaled the one from my hotel room. Her assistant showed me to a conference room where Patricia was already waiting, surrounded by stacks of documents. "Good afternoon," she said, looking up. "How are you feeling?" "Like my life is a mess," I said honestly. "But ready to clean it up." "Perfect attitude," Patricia said. "Let's get started." We spent the next 4 hours going through every aspect of my marriage and finances. Patricia's associate, a sharp young woman named Leslie, took notes and pulled up relevant case law on her laptop. The picture that emerged was complex. Gabriel and I had been equal partners in building Robinson Tech, but his majority stake gave him more control. Our personal assets were substantial but not unlimited. The house was in both our names. So were the cars, the vacation home, and most of our investment accounts. "This is going to take months," Patricia said finally, sitting back in her chair. "Maybe longer. Gabriel's not going to want to give up his majority control of the company, and buying you out will require significant capital. He'll fight." "Let him fight," I said. "I'm not backing down." Patricia smiled. "Good. Because I have a strategy that might speed things along." She pulled out a document and slid it across the table to me. "This is a letter we're going to send to Robinson Tech's board of directors, informing them of Gabriel's affair with an employee, and in turn no less, someone he had power over. That opens the company up to potential sexual harassment lawsuits, hostile work environment claims, and a host of other liabilities." I stared at the letter. "You want to threaten the company?" "I want to apply pressure," Patricia corrected. "Gabriel might be willing to drag out a divorce, but the board won't be willing to risk the company's reputation and finances. They'll push him to settle quickly and quietly." It was ruthless. It was also brilliant. "Do it," I said. Patricia nodded to Leslie, who immediately started typing on her laptop. "The letter will go out today. We should have a response within 48 hours. What do I do in the meantime?" I asked. "You stay away from Gabriel," Patricia said firmly. "Don't talk to him. Don't go to the office. Don't engage with anyone from Robinson Tech except through me. And start thinking about what you want your life to look like after all this is over. That last part stuck with me as I took a cab back to the hotel. What did I want my life to look like? For 15 years I'd been Gabriel's wife. The CFO of Robinson Tech, half of a power couple. My entire identity had been tied up in that marriage, that company, that life. Now I had to figure out who I was without any of it. The thought was terrifying. It was also a little bit exciting. Back in my hotel room, I opened my laptop and started making lists. It's what I did when I needed to organize my thoughts. Lists made sense. Lists were controllable. List 1, things I need to do. Find an apartment. Update my resume. Open new bank accounts in my name only. Change all my passwords. Tell my parents. Tell Gabriel's parents. I stopped at that last one. Gabriel's parents. They'd been like second parents to me for 15 years. His mother had taught me her recipes. His father had walked me through how to negotiate my first major contract. They'd been at our wedding, celebrating with us. How was I supposed to tell them their son had destroyed our marriage? List 2, things I need to remember. This is not my fault. I deserve better than this. I am more than my marriage. I have resources and options. I will survive this. I stared at that last point. I will survive this. Would I? It didn't feel like it right now. It felt like I was drowning, like every breath was an effort. But I'd built a company from nothing. I'd managed multi-million-dollar budgets. I'd negotiated deals with people twice my age who'd underestimated me because I was young and female. If I could do all that, I could survive a divorce. My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Robinson? An unfamiliar voice. Male professional. This is Detective Michael Torres with the police department. I'm calling about an incident report filed this morning. My stomach dropped. What incident? Your husband, Gabriel Robinson, filed a harassment complaint against someone named Brittany Carson. He claims she's been showing up at his home and office making threats. I wanted to verify some information with you. I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. Brittany is making threats? According to Mr. Robinson, yes. He says she's unstable and potentially dangerous. But I'm having trouble corroborating his story. Can you tell me about your relationship with Miss Carson? So Gabriel was trying to paint Brittany as the villain now. The crazy, obsessed intern who'd seduced him and was now stalking him. Classic. Detective Torres, I said carefully, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Brittany Carson and my husband have been having an affair for the past 6 months. Yesterday, she threw coffee on me at our workplace and claimed Gabriel was her husband. I'm currently filing for divorce. If anyone should be filing harassment complaints, it's me. There was a long pause. I see. That's not the story your husband told me. I'm sure it's not, I said dryly. If you need a statement from me, I'm happy to provide one. But I suggest you get all the facts before you take my husband's word for anything. After I hung up, I sat there processing this new information. Brittany was showing up at Gabriel's home, making threats. So the affair wasn't going well anymore. What a surprise. Part of me, a small, petty part, was glad. Gabriel had thrown away our marriage for this girl, and now she was making his life difficult. Good. He deserved every bit of it. But another part of me felt something almost like pity. Brittany was young and stupid and had believed whatever lies Gabriel had told her. Now she was facing the consequences while Gabriel tried to paint himself as the victim. Men like Gabriel always landed on their feet. Women like Brittany and women like me were left to pick up the pieces. I added another item to my list, things I need to remember. 6. Don't feel sorry for Gabriel. Ever. My phone rang again. Rachel. Have you seen the news? She said as soon as I answered. What news? Check your email. Someone leaked the story to the business press. I opened my laptop and refreshed my email. There, at the top of my inbox, was a news alert. Robinson Tech CEO Gabriel Robinson under fire after affair with intern comes to light. I clicked the link and started reading. The article had everything. The coffee incident. Brittany's claims. My position as CFO and co-founder. Even quotes from unnamed employees about seeing Gabriel and Brittany together. How did they get all this information so fast? I breathed. Office gossip moves at the speed of light, Rachel said. Plus, there were at least a dozen people recording when Brittany threw that coffee on you. The videos are probably all over social media by now. Great. Perfect. So not only was my personal life destroyed, it was now public entertainment. Natalie? Rachel's voice was gentle. I know this feels awful right now, but this might actually work in your favor. Public pressure could force Gabriel to settle faster. She was right, I knew she was right, but it didn't make me feel any better. I didn't want to be a headline. I didn't want strangers dissecting my marriage online. I need to get out of this hotel, I said suddenly. I need to find an apartment. Somewhere I can actually live while all this gets sorted out. I'll help you look, Rachel offered immediately. Send me your requirements and budget. I'll find you something. After we hung up, I made another list. Requirements for my new apartment. Downtown location. High floor with a view. Doorman for security. Modern kitchen. 2 bedrooms in case Rachel needs to stay over. Absolutely no memories of Gabriel. That last one was the most important. I needed a space that was completely mine. A fresh start. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Patricia. The board has requested a meeting. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Gabriel will be there. Are you ready for this? Was I ready to face Gabriel again? To sit across a table from the man I'd loved for 15 years and negotiate the end of our marriage? No, absolutely not. But I was going to do it anyway. I typed back, I'll be there. Patricia picked me up from the hotel at 9:30 the next morning. I'd spent an hour getting ready, choosing my outfit carefully. A sharp red blazer over a white blouse and black trousers. Professional but powerful. My armor for whatever was about to happen. You look ready for battle, Patricia said approvingly as I slid into her car. That's because I am. The meeting was being held at a neutral location, a conference room in a building that housed several law firms. Patricia had insisted on this. Robinson Tech's offices were Gabriel's territory, and she wanted me on equal footing. We arrived 10 minutes early and claimed the best seats at the conference table, the ones facing the door. Patricia arranged her files in front of her with precise movements. Remember, she said quietly, don't let him get to you emotionally. This is business now. We're here to negotiate terms, nothing else. I understand. At exactly 10 o'clock, the door opened. Gabriel walked in, followed by his lawyer, Martin Chin, a man I'd met at several company functions. Martin was old school, conservative, the kind of lawyer who wore 3-piece suits and believed in gentlemen's agreements. Behind them came 3 members of Robinson Tech's board of directors. Richard Foster, the lead investor, Susan Park, who'd been with the company since year 2, and Thomas Wright, the newest board member. Gabriel's eyes found mine immediately, and I saw something in them that made my stomach clench. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, his suit wrinkled like he'd slept in it, his hair uncombed. Good. Everyone took their seats. Patricia opened the meeting. Thank you all for coming, she said, her voice cool and professional. As you're aware, Mrs. Robinson has retained me to represent her in divorce proceedings against Mr. Robinson. However, given that both parties are major stakeholders in Robinson Tech Industries, we felt it was important to address the business implications of this divorce with the board present. Richard Foster cleared his throat. He was in his 60s, a venture capitalist who'd believed in Gabriel's vision when no one else would. Before we begin, I'd like to say that the board is deeply concerned about the circumstances that led to this meeting. Gabriel, your personal conduct has put the company at significant risk. Gabriel's jaw tightened. I understand that, Richard. But I don't see how my personal life is the board's business. It became our business when you had an affair with an employee, Susan Park said sharply. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd built her own tech company before joining Robinson Tech. Do you have any idea of the liability you've exposed us to? Sexual harassment claims, hostile work environment, abuse of power. Shall I continue? Brittany and I were both consenting adults, Gabriel said. She was an intern, Susan shot back. You were the CEO. There's an inherent power imbalance there. Any first-year law student could make a case against you. Thomas Wright, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. The board held an emergency meeting yesterday. We've reviewed the situation from every angle. Gabriel, we need you to resolve this divorce quickly and quietly, with as little damage to the company as possible. Gabriel's face flushed. Is that an order? It's a strong recommendation, Richard said. The company's reputation is on the line. We've already had 3 clients call asking about the situation. The business press is having a field day. Our stock price dropped 2% yesterday. I watched this exchange with a strange sense of detachment. These men and women were talking about my marriage like it was a public relations problem. Which I supposed it was. Martin Chin, Gabriel's lawyer, finally spoke. Let's focus on finding a solution. Mrs. Robinson, what are your terms? Patricia pulled out a document and slid it across the table. Mrs. Robinson is willing to sell her 40% stake in Robinson Tech Industries. She's requesting fair market value, which we've calculated to be $8 million, paid in full within 90 days. She also requests the house, both vehicles and 50% of all joint assets. Gabriel's head snapped up. $8 million? Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? You're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, Patricia said smoothly. I'm sure you can figure something out. Take a loan against your shares. Bring in an investor. Sell some of your personal assets. That's not our problem. This is ridiculous, Gabriel said, looking at me directly for the first time. Natalie, be reasonable. You know I don't have that kind of liquid capital. I met his eyes and kept my voice steady. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with Brittany. His face went red. So this is revenge? You're going to bankrupt me because I made a mistake. I'm taking what's legally mine, I said. What I earned by working beside you for 15 years while you built your little side relationship. That's not revenge. That's justice. Martin Shin held up a hand. Let's all take a breath. Mr. Robinson, I need to speak with you privately. They stepped out of the conference room, leaving me with Patricia and the board members. The silence was awkward. Susan Park was the first to speak. I'm sorry you're going through this, Natalie. For what it's worth, the board has always valued your contributions to the company. Thank you, I said quietly. We want to make this right, Richard added. The company wouldn't exist without you. You managed our finances when we were operating on a shoestring budget. You made smart decisions that saved us during the rough years. We don't want to lose you. I blinked, surprised. You're not taking Gabriel's side? Thomas Wright actually laughed. Gabriel's side? The man had an affair with an intern and created a massive liability for the company. We're business people, Natalie. We care about protecting our investment. Right now you're the one making sense. I felt something warm spread through my chest. Validation. After 24 hours of feeling like my world was ending, these people were acknowledging my worth. I appreciate that, I said. But I can't stay with Robinson Tech. Not after everything that's happened. We understand, Susan said. But we want to make sure you get what you're owed. And frankly, we're not thrilled about Gabriel having sole control of the company right now. His judgment is clearly questionable. That was interesting. Very interesting. Gabriel and Martin returned a few minutes later. Gabriel looked even more haggard than before. Martin spoke first. We'd like to propose a different arrangement. Instead of $8 million cash, what if we structure a payment plan? $2 million up front, then the remaining $6 million paid over 3 years. No, Patricia said immediately. Mrs. Robinson wants a clean break. That means full payment within 90 days as originally stated. That's not realistic, Martin argued. Then Mr. Robinson needs to get creative, Patricia countered. Bring in an investor. Take a loan. Sell other assets. But we're not waiting 3 years. The negotiations continued for another hour. Back and forth, offers and counteroffers, legal terms and financial details. Through it all, Gabriel barely looked at me. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe the reality of what he was losing was finally hitting him. Finally, Richard Foster intervened. I have a proposal. What if the board facilitated a deal? We bring in an outside investor who purchases Mrs. Robinson's shares at fair market value. That takes the pressure off Gabriel personally and gives Mrs. Robinson her money immediately. Patricia and I exchanged a glance. We'd need to review the terms, Patricia said. And Mrs. Robinson would need approval of who the investor is. She has the right to refuse a sale to anyone she considers detrimental to the company. Agreed, Richard said. We'll have our investment team put together a proposal by next week. It wasn't everything I wanted, but it was progress. Real, tangible progress toward ending this nightmare. There's still the matter of personal assets, Martin said, pulling out his own documents. The house, the vehicles, the vacation property. Mrs. Robinson gets the house and both cars, Patricia said firmly. The vacation home can be sold and the proceeds split 50-50. The house is worth $2 million, Martin protested. That's not a fair division. Mr. Robinson's affair is what caused this divorce, Patricia said, her voice sharp. In this state, infidelity is grounds for a favorable asset division for the wrong spouse. We're being generous by only asking for the house and cars. Gabriel slumped in his chair. He looked defeated, broken. Part of me, a very small part, felt sorry for him. The rest of me remembered Brittany throwing coffee on me and claiming to be his wife. The negotiations continued for another 2 hours. By the time we broke for lunch, my head was pounding and I was exhausted. But we'd made progress. Patricia had gotten most of what we'd asked for, with only minor compromises. During the break, I stood by the window looking out at the city. Gabriel approached me, keeping a careful distance. "Can we talk?" he said quietly. "Just the two of us?" "I don't think that's a good idea. Please, Natalie. 5 minutes." I looked at Patricia, who frowned but nodded. "I'll be right outside," she said. When we were alone, Gabriel ran a hand through his hair. That gesture I'd seen 1,000 times. It used to be endearing. Now it just made me angry. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I never wanted to hurt you." "And yet you did," I said. "For 6 months, Gabriel. 6 months you were sleeping with her while coming home to me. How am I supposed to get past that?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I don't even know how it happened. It started out as nothing. Just conversations at the office. Then coffee. Then more. By the time I realized what I'd done, I was in too deep." "So it's Brittany's fault?" I asked. "She seduced you? Is that the story you're going with?" "No," he said quickly. "No, it's my fault. All of it. I made the choices. I'm the one who destroyed our marriage." Finally, something we agree on. He looked at me with such sadness that for a moment, just a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with him. The young entrepreneur with big dreams and a smile that could light up a room. The man who'd promised to build a life with me. That man was gone. Maybe he'd never really existed. "Do you hate me?" Gabriel asked. I considered the question. Did I hate him? I'd certainly hated him yesterday, when the coffee was dripping down my shirt and Brittany was screaming about being his wife. I'd hated him last night, staring at the hotel ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage and wondering what I'd missed. But now, looking at him in this sterile conference room, all I felt was tired. "No," I said honestly. "I don't hate you. I don't feel anything for you at all." "That's worse, isn't it?" He flinched like I'd hit him. "Natalie. We're done, Gabriel. Whatever we had, whatever we were, it's over. Let's just get through these negotiations with our dignity intact and move on with our lives." "What if I don't want to move on?" he said, and there was desperation in his voice now. "What if I want to fight for us? For our marriage?" I almost laughed. "You should have fought for our marriage 6 months ago, before you started sleeping with Brittany. It's too late now." "It's never too late," he insisted. "It is when I say it is," I said firmly. "I'm done, Gabriel. I'm done being your wife, done being your business partner, done with all of it. The only thing we have left to discuss is how quickly we can divide our assets and go our separate ways." The door opened and Patricia stuck her head in. "We're ready to resume." Gabriel looked like he wanted to say something else, but he just nodded and walked back to his seat. The afternoon session was brutal. Every asset, every account, every piece of property was picked apart and evaluated. Martin Chin fought hard for Gabriel, but Patricia was relentless. By the end of the day, we had a preliminary agreement. I would get the house, both cars, my personal jewelry and belongings, half of all joint bank accounts and investments, my full equity stake in Robinson Tech, to be purchased by an outside investor within 90 days. Gabriel would get the vacation home, his personal belongings, his equity stake in Robinson Tech, half of all joint accounts. It wasn't finalized yet. There were still details to work out, documents to sign, lawyers to review everything. But the framework was there. As everyone packed up to leave, Susan Park approached me. "Can I have a word?" We stepped out into the hallway. She looked at me seriously. "The board is going to be watching Gabriel very closely over the next few months. If he makes any more questionable decisions, we may have to consider removing him as CEO." I stared at her. "Really? Really? He's proven his judgment is compromised. We can't have someone like that running a company we've all invested in. I'm telling you this because if that happens, we'd like to offer you a consulting position. Help us find new leadership, oversee the transition." "I'll think about it," I said, though part of me was already intrigued. Not going back to work for Gabriel, but helping the board, maintaining a connection to the company I'd built. That might be satisfying in its own way. Patricia drove me back to the hotel. I was drained, emotionally and physically exhausted. "You did good today," Patricia said as we pulled up to the entrance. "I know it was hard, but you held your ground. I'm proud of you." "Thanks," I said. "I couldn't have done this without you." "That's why you hired me," she said with a smile. "Now go rest. We have more work ahead of us, but today was a victory." Back in my hotel room, I collapsed onto the bed fully clothed. My phone buzzed with texts from Rachel asking how it went, but I didn't have the energy to respond. Instead, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, processing everything that had happened. Gabriel wanted me back. He'd actually said he wanted to fight for our marriage. The audacity was almost impressive. But it didn't matter what he wanted. Not anymore. I was taking control of my life, my future, my story. And Gabriel Robinson was about to find out exactly how much it cost to betray me. 3 weeks later, I signed the lease on a new apartment. It was on the 23rd floor of a sleek building downtown, all glass and steel and modern lines. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen with marble countertops and appliances I'd probably never learn how to use properly. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and there was a balcony big enough for a small table and chairs. It was perfect. Rachel helped me move in, which wasn't hard since I'd left everything at the house. The furniture, the photos, the memories. I wanted nothing that reminded me of Gabriel. So we started from scratch. We spent an entire weekend shopping for basics. A bed, a couch, dishes, towels, everything I needed to make this space mine. I chose bright colors. A blue couch instead of the beige one Gabriel had preferred. Red curtains instead of his boring gray. Green accent pillows that made the living room pop. "This place actually looks like you," Rachel said as we arranged throw pillows on the new couch. "The house you shared with Gabriel always felt so sterile. Like a showroom instead of a home." She was right. Gabriel had wanted everything to look professional, impressive. Like something out of a design magazine. But this apartment felt alive, vibrant, like it had personality. Like it was mine. The divorce was moving forward, slowly but steadily. Patricia sent me weekly updates on the negotiations. Gabriel's lawyer was fighting every point, trying to reduce what I'd get, but Patricia was holding firm. The board of directors had found an investor willing to buy my shares, a venture capital firm that specialized in tech companies. They'd offered $8.5 million for my 40% stake, more than we'd originally asked for. Gabriel had argued against the sale, but the board overruled him. Turns out that public affairs with interns made boards very nervous about CEO judgment. I was scheduled to sign the papers next month. After that, I'd be completely free of Robinson Tech, free of Gabriel. Free to start over. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. "What are you going to do with all that money?" Rachel asked as we unpacked kitchen supplies. "I'm not sure yet," I admitted. "Patricia says I should invest most of it. But I'm thinking about maybe starting my own firm. Financial consulting for small businesses." "That would be perfect for you," Rachel said. "You're brilliant with money. And you'd be your own boss." "No more working with people who betray me," I added. "Exactly." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it cautiously. "This is Detective Torres. I wanted to update you on the situation with Brittany Carson. She's been arrested for violating the restraining order Mr. Robinson filed against her. Thought you should know." I stared at the message. Brittany had been arrested. Part of me felt vindicated. She'd thrown coffee on me, claimed my husband, contributed to the destruction of my marriage. She deserved consequences. But another part of me just felt sad. She was young and stupid and had believed Gabriel's lies. Now she had an arrest record that would follow her for years. "Everything okay?" Rachel asked, noticing my expression. "Brittany got arrested," I said, showing her the text. Rachel's eyes widened. "Wow. What did she do?" "Violated Gabriel's restraining order, apparently. He filed one a few weeks ago when she wouldn't stop showing up at his house." "Do you feel bad for her?" Rachel asked carefully. "A little," I admitted. "She's an idiot, but Gabriel used her. He's twice her age and he was her boss. He had all the power in that relationship." "You're more generous than I would be," Rachel said. "She threw coffee on you." "Oh, I'm still mad about that," I said. "But I can be mad and still recognize that Gabriel manipulated her. He's good at that, apparently." Had he manipulated me too? For 15 years, had I just been seeing what Gabriel wanted me to see? The thought made me uncomfortable. We finished unpacking and ordered takeout, eating on the floor since my dining table wouldn't be delivered until next week. It felt like college again, sprawled on the carpet with Chinese food containers spread around us. "I ran into someone from the old office today," Rachel said casually. "Samantha from accounting." "How is she?" "Good. She asked about you. Said everyone at Robinson Tech misses you." I felt a pang at that. I'd worked with those people for years. Built relationships, mentored young employees, celebrated their successes. Now I was just gone. "Did she say anything about Gabriel?" I asked, hating myself for caring but needing to know anyway. Rachel hesitated. "She said he's a mess. Shows up late, leaves meetings early, seems distracted all the time. Apparently, the board is having serious conversations about his future with the company. Good. Let him feel a fraction of what I'd felt. And Brittany? I asked. Gone, obviously. Fired the day after the coffee incident. No one's heard from her since, except for the whole getting arrested thing. We ate in silence for a moment. Then Rachel said, "There's something else Samantha mentioned. She saw Gabriel at a restaurant last week. With another woman." I set down my fork. Already? Apparently. Samantha said they looked pretty cozy. I waited for the surge of jealousy, the pain of knowing Gabriel had moved on so quickly. But it didn't come. Instead, I just felt a kind of tired resignation. Of course he's already seeing someone else, I said. That's who Gabriel is. He can't be alone. He needs constant validation, constant attention. I just didn't see it before. Are you okay? Rachel asked gently. Yeah, I said, surprised to find I meant it. Yeah, I really am. He can date whoever he wants. It doesn't affect me anymore. And it didn't? That was the strangest part. 3 weeks ago, the thought of Gabriel with someone else would have destroyed me. Now it barely registered. Maybe I was healing. Or maybe I just didn't have any feelings left for him. Either way, it felt like progress. Over the next few weeks, I fell into a new routine. I'd wake up in my bright apartment, make coffee in my new kitchen, and spend the mornings working on my business plan. The consulting firm was becoming more real every day. I had a name picked out, Precision Financial Partners. I'd reached out to my old network, letting people know I was available for consulting work. The response had been overwhelming. It turned out a lot of people had respected my work at Robinson Tech and were eager to hire me now that I was independent. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 clients lined up. In the afternoons, I'd meet with Patricia to discuss the divorce, or with Rachel for coffee, or sometimes just walk around the city. I was rediscovering parts of myself I'd lost during my marriage. I'd always loved art galleries, but Gabriel had found them boring, so I'd stopped going. Now I went every week, spending hours looking at paintings and sculptures. I'd enjoyed hiking before Gabriel convinced me it was a waste of time. Now I drove out to the state park every Sunday, walking trails and breathing fresh air. I was becoming myself again. Someone who existed independently of my husband, my marriage, my role at Robinson Tech. Felt good. One evening, about a month after I'd moved into the new apartment, I was at a gallery opening Rachel had invited me to. It was one of those trendy downtown spaces, all exposed brick and minimalist lighting, showing work by local artists. I was standing in front of a sculpture made of twisted metal and glass when a voice behind me said, "Beautiful, isn't it?" I turned to find a man standing next to me. He was tall, Hispanic, probably in his early 40s. Dark hair with just a touch of silver at the temples. He wore a green button-down shirt and jeans and had an easy smile. "It is," I agreed, looking back at the sculpture. "I like how the artist used the glass to create light within the darkness of the metal." "Interesting interpretation," he said. "I saw it as chaos constrained by structure. But I like your reading better." We stood there for a moment, both studying the artwork. Then he held out his hand. "Julian Torres. I'm an architect." "Natalie Robinson," I said, shaking his hand. Then I paused. "Actually, just Natalie. I'm dropping the Robinson part soon." His eyebrows rose slightly, but he didn't pry. "Nice to meet you, Natalie. Are you an artist?" "No, just an admirer. I work in finance." "Ah, numbers and logic. The opposite of this," he gestured to the sculpture. "Do you enjoy it? The finance or the art?" "Both." I considered the question. I used to enjoy finance. Now I'm not sure. I'm in the process of redefining what I want to do. What makes me happy. "That sounds like a significant life change," Julian said perceptively. "You could say that." We talked for another 20 minutes, moving through the gallery together, discussing the artwork. Julian had interesting perspectives, seeing buildings and structures in the paintings, while I saw patterns and mathematical precision. When Rachel found me later, Julian had moved on to talk to other people at the gallery. "Who was that?" Rachel asked immediately. "You two looked pretty engaged in conversation." "Just someone I met." "Julian. He's an architect." "He's cute," Rachel said. "Did you get his number?" "No," I said, surprised she'd even suggest it. "Rachel, I'm in the middle of a divorce. I'm not looking to date anyone." "I'm not saying marry the guy," Rachel said. "But it doesn't hurt to have friendly conversations with attractive men. You're allowed to have a life, Natalie." Was I? I'd been so focused on the divorce, on rebuilding my life, that I hadn't even considered the possibility of dating again. The thought made me uncomfortable. But as we left the gallery, I found myself thinking about Julian's easy smile, the way he'd really listened when I talked, the comfortable rhythm of our conversation. Maybe Rachel had a point. A few days later, I was meeting with Patricia in her office when she dropped a bomb. "Gabriel wants to contest the sale of your shares," she said, sliding a legal document across the desk. "He's claiming the venture capital firm is offering below market value, and that you're accepting out of spite rather than making a sound business decision." I stared at the document in disbelief. "He can't be serious." "Oh, he's serious. His lawyer filed this motion yesterday. They're trying to delay the sale, claiming it will damage the company's future." "That's ridiculous," I said. "The firm is offering more than we asked for. And the board approved the sale." "I know," Patricia said. "But Gabriel has majority control. If he fights hard enough, he might be able to block it." I felt rage building in my chest. He can't keep doing this. He can't keep dragging this out, trying to control everything. "Unfortunately, he can," Patricia said. "At least he can try. But Natalie, we have options. The board is getting frustrated with Gabriel's antics. They're losing patience." "What kind of options?" Patricia pulled out another document. "We file a motion to force the sale, arguing that Gabriel's personal animosity toward you is interfering with business decisions. We paint him as vindictive, unstable, letting his emotions override his business judgment." "Will that work?" "It should. Especially given everything else. The affair, the scenes with Brittany, his declining performance at work. We build a case that Gabriel is not acting in the company's best interest." It would be a fight. Another battle in what was becoming a war. But I was tired of being patient, tired of letting Gabriel control the narrative. "Do it," I said. "File the motion. Let's end this." Patricia smiled, that sharp, satisfied smile I'd come to know well. "Now you're talking." Over the next few weeks, the legal battle intensified. Gabriel's lawyer fought every point, but Patricia was relentless. She gathered testimony from board members about Gabriel's erratic behavior. She documented every time he tried to delay or sabotage the divorce proceedings. She built a case that was impossible to ignore. The judge scheduled a hearing for the following month. In the meantime, my consulting business was taking off. I'd signed 5 more clients, all small businesses that needed help with financial planning and strategy. I was working from home, setting my own hours, answering to no one but myself. It was liberating. I ran into Julian Torres again, completely by accident at a coffee shop downtown. He was sitting by the window with blueprints spread across his table, studying them with intense focus. "Natalie," he said, looking up when I walked past. "Good to see you again." "Julian. Working on something interesting?" "A community center renovation," he said. "It's challenging but rewarding." "What brings you here?" "Just needed a change of scenery from my apartment. I work from home now." "Ah, the joys and perils of being your own boss," he said with a smile. "Want to join me? I could use a break from staring at these blueprints." I hesitated for just a moment, then sat down. We talked for an hour and I found myself laughing for the first time in weeks. Julian was funny, intelligent, and easy to talk to. He didn't ask about my divorce or pry into my personal life. He just talked to me like a normal person. When I finally said I needed to get back to work, he asked, "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" "As friends?" he added quickly, perhaps sensing my hesitation. "I'm new to the city and don't know many people. It would be nice to have a friend." "Friends? I could do friends?" "Sure," I said. "That would be nice." We exchanged numbers and I left the coffee shop feeling lighter somehow. Like maybe, just maybe, my life was starting to come together. That night, lying in bed in my apartment, I thought about everything that had happened. The coffee incident that had started all of this. The painful revelations about Gabriel's affair. The divorce proceedings that seemed to drag on forever. But I also thought about my new apartment, my growing business, the friendships I was rebuilding. I thought about Julian's easy smile and the possibility of new connections, new beginnings. Gabriel had destroyed our marriage. But in doing so, he'd given me something unexpected: freedom. The freedom to be myself, to build a life on my own terms, to discover who I was without him. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth more than the 15 years I'd lost. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. I sat next to Patricia at the plaintiff's table, my hands folded in my lap, trying to look calm and composed. Across the room, Gabriel sat with Martin Chin, not looking at me. He'd lost weight since the last time I'd seen him. His suit hung on his frame and there were deeper lines around his eyes. Good. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s named Judge Eleanor Martinez, reviewed the documents in front of her. The hearing was about Gabriel's motion to block the sale of my shares. Patricia had filed a counter-motion accusing him of interfering with legitimate business transactions out of personal spite. "Let's begin," Judge Martinez said, looking up. "Mr. Chin, you filed the initial motion. Make your case." Martin Chin stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "Your Honor, my client is concerned that Mrs. Robinson is making a rash decision that will harm Robinson Tech Industries. The venture capital firm offering to purchase her shares has a history of aggressive restructuring. If they acquire 40% of the company, they could force changes that damage the business my client has spent years building. Mrs. Robinson is a co-founder of the company," the judge pointed out. "Doesn't she have the right to sell her shares to whomever she chooses?" "Under normal circumstances, yes," Martin said. "But the company's operating agreement includes clauses about major share transfers. Mr. Robinson has the right to contest sales that could harm the company's interests." Patricia stood. "Your Honor, if I may?" Judge Martinez nodded. "Mr. Robinson's concern for the company's welfare is suspiciously recent," Patricia said. "For the past 8 weeks, he's done nothing but delay and obstruct these divorce proceedings. He's contested every asset division, every financial arrangement. Now, suddenly he's concerned about business interests." She pulled out a document and approached the bench. "This is testimony from 3 members of Robinson Tech's board of directors. All 3 state that they reviewed the venture capital firm's proposal and found it favorable. They approved the sale unanimously. Mr. Robinson is the only one objecting." "That's because I understand the company better than the board," Gabriel said, speaking up. Martin shot him a warning look, but it was too late. "Mr. Robinson," Judge Martinez said sharply, "you'll have your chance to testify. Right now, sit down and be quiet." Gabriel's face flushed red, but he sat. Patricia continued. "Your Honor, this isn't about protecting the company. This is about Mr. Robinson trying to maintain control over his ex-wife. He's using the company as a weapon in their divorce, refusing to let her move on with her life." "That's not true," Gabriel said, standing again despite Martin's attempts to pull him back down. "I built that company from nothing. I'm not going to let her destroy it just because she's angry with me." "I built it with you," I said, surprising myself by speaking. Patricia put a hand on my arm, but I kept going. "I was there from day one, Gabriel. I managed every dollar, made financial decisions that saved us during the hard years. You don't get to rewrite history just because you're upset about the divorce." "Mrs. Robinson, please," Judge Martinez said, but her tone was less harsh than when she'd reprimanded Gabriel. "Let your lawyer speak for you." I sat down, my heart pounding. Patricia squeezed my hand under the table. The hearing continued for another 2 hours. Martin called Gabriel to the stand, where he testified about the company's history, his concerns about the venture capital firm, his desire to protect Robinson Tech's future. Patricia's cross-examination was brutal. "Mr. Robinson, when did you first become concerned about this venture capital firm?" she asked. "When I heard they were interested in buying my wife's shares," Gabriel said. "Your wife? You mean your soon-to-be ex-wife?" "Yes." "And before that, when Mrs. Robinson was still working as CFO, did you ever express concern about potential investors or share sales?" "It never came up." "Because you trusted her business judgment?" Gabriel hesitated. "Yes." "So to be clear, you trusted her business judgment when she was your wife and worked for you, but now that she's leaving you, suddenly her judgment is suspect?" "That's not what I said." "Isn't it though?" "Mr. Robinson, isn't the truth that you're using your position as majority shareholder to punish your wife for divorcing you?" "No," Gabriel said, but his voice lacked conviction. Patricia pulled out another document. "This is a text message you sent to Mrs. Robinson 3 weeks ago. Would you like me to read it to the court?" Gabriel's face went pale. "That was private." "It's evidence of your state of mind," Patricia said. "Your Honor, may I read it?" Judge Martinez nodded. Patricia read aloud, "You're going to regret leaving me. I'll make sure you get nothing from the company we built. You'll see what happens when you try to destroy everything I worked for." The courtroom was silent. Gabriel sat frozen in the witness stand, his face ashen. "Does that sound like someone concerned about the company's welfare?" Patricia asked. "Or does that sound like someone seeking revenge?" "I was angry," Gabriel said weakly. "I wasn't thinking clearly." "Exactly," Patricia said. "You're not thinking clearly. And the court shouldn't let your clouded judgment interfere with Mrs. Robinson's legal right to sell her shares." When it was my turn to testify, Patricia asked me straightforward questions about my role in building Robinson Tech, my business acumen, my reasons for wanting to sell my shares. Why do you want to leave the company you co-founded? Patricia asked. I looked at Gabriel, really looked at him for the first time that day. Because I can't work with someone I don't trust. Gabriel's affair showed me that he's capable of lying, of maintaining a secret life right under my nose. How am I supposed to trust his business decisions? How am I supposed to work alongside him every day, knowing what he did? And the venture capital firm? Why did you choose them? They offered the best terms and the board approved them. They're a reputable firm with a good track record. Gabriel's objections have nothing to do with business and everything to do with controlling me. Martin's cross-examination tried to paint me as vindictive, making emotional decisions rather than logical ones. But I held my ground, answering each question calmly, professionally. I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks. I wasn't going to let Gabriel win. Judge Martinez took a brief recess, then returned with her decision. This court finds that Mr. Robinson's objections to the share sale are not based on legitimate business concerns, she said, her voice echoing in the small courtroom. Mrs. Robinson has the legal right to sell her shares, and the board of directors has approved the sale. Mr. Robinson's motion is denied. I felt Patricia's hand squeeze mine under the table. We'd won. However, Judge Martinez continued, and my stomach dropped. Given the contentious nature of these proceedings, I'm ordering both parties to attend mediation before the final divorce settlement is reached. Perhaps with a neutral third party, you can resolve your remaining differences without further litigation. Mediation. More time with Gabriel, more negotiations, more delays. But at least I'd won on the share sale. That was the important part. As we left the courthouse, Gabriel tried to approach me. Patricia stepped between us. All communication goes through me, she told him firmly. You heard the judge. Mediation only with a professional present. Gabriel looked at me over Patricia's shoulder. Natalie, please. Can't we just talk? No, I said simply and walked away. Outside, Patricia and I stood in the sunshine, reviewing what had just happened. The share sale will go through within 2 weeks, Patricia said. The judge's ruling makes it official. You'll have your $8.5 million and you'll be done with Robinson Tech forever. Thank God, I breathed. As for the mediation, Patricia continued, we'll schedule it for next month. It's just a formality. The judge wants to see that we tried one more time to reach an amicable settlement. But based on today, I think Gabriel's finally realizing he's not going to get what he wants. I went home to my apartment and immediately called Rachel, who'd been waiting to hear the results. We won, I told her as soon as she answered. I knew you would, she said. Gabriel's been making such stupid decisions lately. The board is furious with him. How do you know? Because one of the board members called me this morning, Rachel said. Susan Park. She wanted to confirm that you'd be interested in that consulting position once the divorce is final. My heart skipped. Really? Really? They're planning to restructure the executive team. Gabriel's days as CEO might be numbered. The idea of Gabriel losing his position at the company he'd built should have made me feel triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. How had we gotten here? From partners building a business together to enemies tearing each other apart in court? But I knew the answer. Gabriel had gotten here. Gabriel had made the choices that destroyed our marriage and damaged his own company in the process. That evening, I had dinner with Julian at a small Italian restaurant downtown. We'd been meeting regularly over the past few weeks, and I'd started to look forward to our conversations. He made me laugh, made me think about things other than the divorce. You look happy, he observed as we shared a bottle of wine. Good day? Good day, I confirmed. Won a court battle against my soon-to-be ex-husband. Congratulations. What was the battle about? I explained the share sale situation and Julian listened attentively. Sounds like he's having trouble letting go, he said when I finished. That's putting it mildly. Can I ask you something personal? Julian said. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Sure. Do you still love him? The question caught me off guard. Did I still love Gabriel? It was something I'd been avoiding thinking about. No, I said finally. I don't think I do. I love who he used to be or who I thought he was. But the man sitting in that courtroom today? I don't even know him. Julian nodded slowly. That must be hard. Realizing the person you built a life with isn't who you thought they were. It is, I admitted. But it's also freeing in a way. I'm not tied to him anymore. I can build whatever life I want now. What kind of life do you want? Julian asked. I thought about it. Honest. Simple. No games, no lies, no hidden agendas. I want to work with people I trust, spend time with people who respect me, and build something that's truly mine. That sounds like a good life, Julian said with a smile. We talked late into the evening, and when we finally left the restaurant, Julian walked me to my car. Thank you, I said, for being a friend through all this. It's meant a lot. That's what friends do, Julian said. Although, full disclosure, I have to admit I'm hoping we might be more than friends eventually. When you're ready. If you're interested. My heart did a little flip. Julian? No pressure, he said quickly. I know you're going through a lot, but I wanted you to know how I feel. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here. I smiled. I appreciate that. And honestly, I might be interested too. But you're right, I need time. I need to figure out who I am without Gabriel before I can think about being with someone else. Take all the time you need, Julian said. I'm not going anywhere. He kissed my cheek, gentle and brief, and walked to his own car. I stood there for a moment, feeling warm despite the cool night air. Maybe there was life after Gabriel. Maybe there was happiness waiting for me on the other side of all this pain. The thought made me smile all the way home. 2 weeks later, I signed the papers selling my shares in Robinson Tech Industries. The money hit my account the next day. $8.5 million. I stared at my bank balance on my phone, not quite believing it was real. This was my money earned by years of hard work and smart decisions. This was my freedom, my fresh start. I called Patricia immediately. It's done. The money's in my account. Congratulations, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. You're officially free of Robinson Tech. Now we just need to finalize the divorce and you can move on completely. The mediation was scheduled for the following week. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I was ready. Ready to be done with Gabriel, done with the fighting, done with this chapter of my life. That night, I treated myself to dinner at an expensive restaurant. Alone. I ordered the most expensive items on the menu, drank a bottle of wine that cost more than my car payment, and felt absolutely no guilt about it. This was my money. My life. My choice. As I sat there, looking out at the city lights, I thought about everything that had happened. The coffee incident that seemed like a lifetime ago. The painful revelations, the court battles, the slow dissolution of a 15-year marriage. It had been hell. But I'd survived. More than survived, I'd thrived. I'd built a successful consulting business. I'd made new friends, maintained old ones. I'd created a home that was truly mine. I'd started to imagine a future that didn't include Gabriel. My phone buzzed with a text from Julian. Thinking about you. Hope you're celebrating tonight. I smiled and texted back. I am. Thank you for being part of my new life. His response came quickly. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. I raised my wine glass to myself in the restaurant's reflection. To surviving betrayal. To building something new. To the future, whatever it held. Gabriel Robinson had tried to break me. But all he'd done was set me free. The mediation took place in a conference room that smelled like stale coffee and old carpet. I arrived 15 minutes early with Patricia, and we claimed the seats facing the door. The mediator, a calm woman in her 60s named Dr. Sharon Miller, was already there reviewing files. Good morning, Mrs. Robinson, she said, shaking my hand. I've reviewed your case extensively. I'm hoping we can reach an agreement today that satisfies both parties. I'm ready to be reasonable, I said. As long as Gabriel is too. Patricia squeezed my hand under the table. We both knew Gabriel hadn't been reasonable about anything in months. Gabriel arrived exactly on time, looking more put together than he had at the courthouse. He'd gained back some of the weight he'd lost, and his suit was freshly pressed. Martin Chin walked beside him, carrying a thick briefcase. They sat across from us, and for a moment, we all just looked at each other. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Dr. Miller cleared her throat. Let's establish some ground rules. This is a safe space for honest communication. Both parties will have a chance to speak without interruption. Our goal is to reach a fair settlement that allows both of you to move forward with your lives. She looked at each of us in turn. Mr. Robinson, would you like to begin? Gabriel leaned forward, his hands clasped on the table. I want to say first that I'm sorry. Natalie, I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed our marriage. I take full responsibility for that. I waited for the rush of emotion, the anger or sadness or something. But I just felt numb. However, Gabriel continued, and there it was. There was always a however with him. I think we need to be realistic about the asset division. You're asking for things that would financially cripple me. The house, the cars, plus the money from your share sale. That's more than $10 million in assets you're walking away with. I earned them, I said calmly. We earned them together, Gabriel countered. Natalie, please. Can't we find a middle ground? Maybe you keep the house but I keep one of the cars? Maybe we split the bank account 60-40 instead of 50-50? Patricia started to respond, but I held up a hand. I wanted to say this myself. Gabriel, you had an affair for 6 months. You lied to me every single day. You made me look like a fool in front of our entire company. You had your mistress throw coffee on me and claim to be your wife. And now you want me to compromise. I was wrong, Gabriel said. I admit that. But does that mean you get to take everything? Does that mean I lose my house, my marriage, and half my assets? You didn't lose them, I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. You threw them away. You made the choice to cheat. You made the choice to lie. Now you're facing the consequences. Natalie. Gabriel started. No, I said firmly. You don't get to Natalie me anymore. You lost that right when you betrayed me. Dr. Miller held up both hands. Let's take a breath. Mr. Robinson, I understand you're concerned about the financial impact of this divorce. But Mrs. Robinson is entitled to a fair share of the marital assets. The affair does factor into that calculation. Martin Chin spoke up. My client is prepared to offer a settlement. He'll agree to all of Mrs. Robinson's terms regarding the house and vehicles. However, he'd like the split of liquid assets to be 40-60 in his favor, given that he needs capital to keep Robinson Tech running smoothly. I almost laughed. You just sold 40% of the company for $8.5 million. The company has plenty of capital. That money went into the business accounts, Gabriel said. It's not mine personally. Then take a loan against your shares, I suggested. That's what you were going to make me do before the judge forced the sale through. Patricia laid out several documents on the table. Here's what we're prepared to accept. Mrs. Robinson keeps the house, both cars, and her personal belongings. The vacation home is sold and proceeds split 50-50. All joint accounts and investments are split 50-50. Mr. Robinson's 401k remains his, as does Mrs. Robinson's. Any assets acquired after the date of separation are separate property. That seems fair, Dr. Miller said, looking at Gabriel. Mr. Robinson? Gabriel's jaw was tight. What about spousal support? What about it? I asked. You're asking for a substantial amount, Gabriel said. $5,000 a month for 3 years. That's almost $200,000. It's temporary support while I build my consulting business, I said. And it's based on our standard of living during the marriage. Patricia calculated it according to state guidelines. You're going to have $8.5 million from the share sale, Gabriel protested. You don't need my money on top of that. The law says otherwise, Patricia said coolly. Temporary spousal support is standard in divorces where one party sacrificed career opportunities to support the other. Mrs. Robinson could have worked anywhere for anyone. She chose to build Robinson Tech with you, at a below-market salary for years while the company got off the ground. We went back and forth for hours. Every asset, every dollar, every detail was negotiated and renegotiated. Gabriel fought on every point, trying to reduce what I'd get, trying to maintain control even as his marriage crumbled. But slowly, grudgingly, we reached agreements. By early afternoon, Dr. Miller had a preliminary settlement written up. I would keep the house, valued at $2 million. I would keep both cars, valued at $150,000 combined. The vacation home would be sold, proceeds split equally. All joint bank accounts and investments would be split 50-50, totaling approximately $1 million each. Gabriel would pay temporary spousal support of $4,000 per month for 2 years. I would receive my full share sale proceeds of $8.5 million. We would divide personal property by mutual agreement. Gabriel stared at the document for a long time. Then he looked up at me. Is this really what you want? He asked. To take everything and leave me with nothing? You're not left with nothing, I said. You have your majority stake in Robinson Tech, your retirement accounts, half the vacation home proceeds, and $1 million from our joint accounts. You're hardly destitute. But I don't have you, he said quietly. The room went silent. Even Martin Chin looked uncomfortable. Gabriel, I said, and my voice was gentler than I expected it to be. You didn't have me for the past 6 months. You had Brittany. You made your choice. I chose wrong, he said. I see that now. She was a mistake. A midlife crisis or whatever you want to call it. But you were my life. Our marriage was my life. I said. Past tense. It's over, Gabriel. Does it have to be? He asked, and there was genuine desperation in his voice now. Can't we try again? Marriage counseling, starting over, anything? I looked at this man I'd been married to for 15 years. The man I'd loved, trusted, built a life with. The man who'd thrown it all away for 6 months with an intern. No, I said simply. It's too late. You broke something that can't be fixed. Gabriel's face crumpled. For a moment I thought he might cry. But he pulled himself together, straightened in his chair, and picked up a pen. Where do I sign? He asked, his voice hollow. Dr. Miller showed him where to initial and sign. Then she turned to me. I signed my own name, watching as 15 years of marriage officially ended with the stroke of a pen. Congratulations, Dr. Miller said when we'd finished. You've reached a settlement. I'll file these documents with the court. The divorce should be final within 30 days. 30 days. 1 month until I was officially no longer Mrs. Gabriel Robinson. Gabriel stood to leave. He looked at me one more time. I hope someday you can forgive me. I don't need to forgive you, I said. I just need to move on. He nodded slowly, then left with Martin Chin. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Patricia turned to me. How are you feeling? Relieved, I said honestly. Exhausted, but relieved. You should be proud, Patricia said. You fought hard for what was yours and you won. That night, I went home to my apartment and just sat on the couch, staring at nothing. It was done. The fighting, the negotiations, the constant battle with Gabriel. All done. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt empty. My phone rang. Julian. Hey, I said, answering. Hey, how did it go? We reached a settlement. The divorce will be final in 30 days. That's good news, right? Julian asked carefully. Yeah, I said. It is. I don't know. I thought I'd feel different. Want some company? Julian offered. I could bring dinner. Or we could just sit together. Whatever you need. I smiled despite myself. That would be nice. He showed up 40 minutes later with Thai food and a bottle of wine. We ate on my couch, watching mindless TV, not talking about the divorce or Gabriel or anything important. It was exactly what I needed. As the evening wore on, Julian said, Can I tell you something? Sure. I'm impressed by how you've handled all this. Most people would have fallen apart. But you've been strong, focused. You've built a whole new life for yourself. I didn't have a choice, I said. It was either fall apart or keep moving forward. You always have a choice, Julian said gently. You chose strength. You chose yourself. That takes courage. I looked at him, really looked at him. His kind eyes, his easy smile, the way he looked at me like I was someone worth knowing. Julian, I said slowly. When I'm ready, when the divorce is final and I've had some time to heal, I'd like to see where this goes. With us. His smile widened. I'd like that too. We sat there on my couch, not kissing, not rushing anything, just being together. And for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. The next few weeks passed quickly. I threw myself into my consulting work, which was thriving. Word had spread about my financial acumen, and I had more clients than I could handle. I hired an assistant, a sharp young woman named Jennifer who reminded me of myself at that age. Rachel and I had regular lunches, where she filled me in on the gossip from Robinson Tech. The board had officially placed Gabriel on probation. His performance had declined so dramatically that they were considering replacing him as CEO. Susan Park is leading the charge, Rachel told me over salad one afternoon. She's convinced Gabriel's personal problems have made him a liability. What does Gabriel think about all this? I asked. He's fighting it. But he's lost a lot of support on the board. The affair, the divorce, the way he tried to block your share sale, it all made him look unstable. Part of me felt vindicated. Gabriel had spent months trying to control me, to punish me for leaving him. Now he was facing the consequences of his own actions. But another part of me just felt sad. We'd built that company together. We'd worked so hard to make it successful. And now Gabriel was destroying it all because he couldn't handle his personal life. The divorce became final on a Tuesday. I received the paperwork in the mail, an official document declaring that Natalie Robinson and Gabriel Robinson were no longer married. I sat in my apartment, staring at that document, waiting for some big emotional reaction. But there was nothing. Just a quiet sense of finality. It was over. Really, truly over. I called my parents, who I'd been keeping updated throughout the process. How are you feeling, honey? My mother asked. Okay, I said. I think I'm okay. That's all we can ask for, my father said. You've been through hell, but you came out the other side. We're proud of you. After we hung up, I called Julian. It's official, I told him. I'm officially divorced. How do you feel? Like I can finally breathe, I said. Like I've been holding my breath for months and I can finally let it out. Want to celebrate? Julian asked. Properly celebrate, I mean? What did you have in mind? Dinner at that fancy restaurant you love. Dancing if you're up for it. And maybe if you're ready, our first official date. I smiled. I'm ready. That Saturday, Julian took me to the nicest restaurant in the city. I wore a red dress that made me feel beautiful and powerful. We ate incredible food, drank expensive wine, and talked about everything except Gabriel and the divorce. After dinner, we went dancing at a club downtown. I hadn't danced in years. Gabriel had always said he didn't like clubs, didn't see the point. But as Julian spun me across the dance floor, I remembered how much I'd loved this. The music, the movement, the pure joy of it. We danced until midnight, then Julian walked me back to my apartment. Can I come up? He asked at the door. I looked at him, this kind, patient man who'd been there for me through the worst months of my life. Yes, I said. You can come up. We went inside, and for the first time since the coffee incident, I felt like myself again. Not Gabriel's wife. Not the wronged woman. Just Natalie, choosing what she wanted, who she wanted, how she wanted to live. Julian kissed me, soft and gentle, and it felt like coming home. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in the lobby of my own office building. Precision Financial Partners had outgrown my apartment. I now had a suite on the 15th floor of a downtown building, complete with a reception area, 3 offices, and a conference room. Jennifer, my assistant, had her own desk in the front. I'd also hired 2 junior consultants, both brilliant women fresh out of business school. It's perfect, Rachel said, walking through the space with a bottle of champagne. Natalie, you did it. You built something amazing. We're having a proper opening next week, I told her. You're coming, right? Obviously. Wouldn't miss it. My client list had grown to 23 businesses, ranging from small startups to established companies looking to restructure their finances. I worked long hours, but they were my hours. My choices. My business. It felt incredible. The relationship with Julian had grown slowly, carefully. He understood that I needed time, needed space to figure out who I was without Gabriel. We dated, spent weekends together, but I kept my apartment. I wasn't ready to merge my life with anyone else's just yet. Maybe someday. But not yet. How's Julian? Rachel asked as if reading my mind. He's good. He's working on a big project, renovating an old theater downtown. He's been showing me the designs. It's beautiful. Are you two getting serious? I considered the question. Maybe. Probably. But I'm not rushing anything. I spent 15 years in a marriage that wasn't what I thought it was. I want to be sure this time. That's smart, Rachel said. And Julian seems like a good guy. Patient. Supportive. He is, I agreed. He's everything Gabriel wasn't. We heard from mutual friends that Gabriel's life had continued to spiral. The board had removed him as CEO 3 months ago, though he still maintained his majority ownership. He'd been replaced by an outside hire, a woman named Patricia Hughes who had no connection to Gabriel or me. Robinson Tech was thriving under the new leadership, which I found satisfying in a petty way. Gabriel had tried to contact me a few times. Emails asking how I was, texts saying he missed me, even a letter delivered to my old address that the new owners forwarded to my apartment. I ignored all of it. There was nothing left to say. My business launch party the following week was a huge success. Over 100 people attended, including former colleagues from Robinson Tech, new clients, and local business leaders. Even Susan Park from Robinson Tech's board showed up. I'm so glad you're doing well, Susan told me. You deserved better than what happened. Thank you, I said. And thank you for the referrals you've been sending my way. Half my clients came through your recommendations. You're brilliant at what you do, Susan said. It's my pleasure to recommend you. Julian arrived halfway through the party straight from a work site. He was still in jeans and a blue t-shirt, looking completely out of place among the business suits, but he didn't seem to care. Sorry I'm late, he said, kissing my cheek. The contractor had questions that couldn't wait. You're here now, I said. That's what matters. We stood together, watching the crowd mingle and network. My business. My party. My life. You look happy, Julian observed. I am happy, I realized. For the first time in a long time, I'm actually happy. Good, he said, squeezing my hand. You deserve it. Later that night, after everyone had left and it was just Julian and me cleaning up, my phone rang. A known number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Natalie? It was Gabriel's voice, slurred and heavy. Natalie, is that you? Gabriel? Are you drunk? Maybe a little, he admitted. I needed to talk to you. I saw the article about your new business. You're doing so well. I'm proud of you. You're calling to tell me you're proud? I asked, incredulous. I'm calling to tell you I was wrong, Gabriel said. About everything. Brittany, the affair, fighting the divorce. All of it. I lost you and I lost everything that mattered. Gabriel, we're done having this conversation. We've been divorced for 6 months. I know, he said. I know we are. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I threw away. What I lost. Good, I said. Now you can move on with your life just like I'm moving on with mine. Are you happy? Gabriel asked. Really happy? I looked at Julian, who was carefully pretending not to listen while he stacked chairs. Yes, I said honestly. I really am. Good, Gabriel said, and he actually sounded like he meant it. That's good. You deserve to be happy, Natalie. Even if I couldn't be the one to make you happy. Take care of yourself, Gabriel, I said softly, then hung up. Julian looked up. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Everything's okay. That was Gabriel. He was drunk and nostalgic. But I think maybe he's finally starting to accept that it's over. How do you feel about that? Relieved, I said. I don't hate him anymore. I don't feel anything for him. And that feels like closure. As the months passed, my life continued to improve. Precision Financial Partners became one of the most respected consulting firms in the city. I was invited to speak at conferences, to teach workshops, to share my expertise with other professionals. Julian and I grew closer. He moved into my apartment slowly, one box at a time. We talked about the future, about maybe buying a house together someday, about building a life that was ours. But we weren't rushing. We'd both learned the importance of taking time, of being sure. I ran into Gabriel one last time, almost exactly a year after the coffee incident. I was having lunch at a restaurant downtown when I saw him at a table across the room. He was alone, picking at his food, looking older than his years. For a moment, I considered leaving without saying anything. But something made me walk over to his table. Gabriel, I said. He looked up, startled. Natalie. Hi. Can I sit for a minute? He gestured to the empty chair and I sat. How are you? I asked. I'm managing, he said. Work is different now that I'm not CEO. But I'm adjusting. How about you? I'm good, I said. Really good. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then Gabriel said, I heard you're with someone. Julian Torres, the architect. Yes, I said. We've been together for about 9 months. Is he good to you? Very good. Gabriel nodded. I'm glad. You deserve someone who treats you right. I'm sorry it didn't work out for us, I said, surprising myself with my honesty. I really did love you, Gabriel. For a long time. I loved you too, he said. I didn't know how to show it. And by the time I figured it out, it was too late. I agreed. But we both learned from it. We both grew. That counts for something. Gabriel reached across the table and squeezed my hand just for a moment. Thank you. For not hating me. For being kind even after everything I put you through. We spent 15 years together, I said. That meant something even if it's over now. I can't hate you forever. I hope someday I'll be half as happy as you look right now, Gabriel said. I hope so too, I said honestly, then stood. Take care of yourself, Gabriel. You too, Natalie. I walked back to my table where Julian was waiting with our food. Was that him? Julian asked. Yeah, I said. But it's okay. We're okay. And we were. I was okay. Better than okay. I was thriving. The coffee incident had seemed like the end of the world when it happened. But looking back now, it had been a beginning. The beginning of finding myself, of building a life I actually wanted, of becoming the person I was meant to be. Gabriel had betrayed me, yes. He'd hurt me, embarrassed me, tried to control me. But he'd also freed me. Freed me to discover my own strength, my own worth, my own happiness. I wouldn't have chosen this path. But now that I was on it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I was in my office reviewing a client's quarterly projections when Jennifer buzzed me. Natalie? There's a Susan Park here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Susan Park. Robinson Tech's board member. The woman who'd sent me so many client referrals. Send her in, I said, curious. Susan walked in carrying a leather portfolio and looking serious. We shook hands and she sat across from my desk. Thank you for seeing me without notice, she said. This couldn't wait. Of course. What's going on? Susan opened her portfolio and pulled out several documents. The board has made a decision about Robinson Tech's future. We're selling the company. I stared at her. Selling? The whole company? Yes. We've been in negotiations with Tech Venture Corporation for the past 3 months. They're offering $200 million for full acquisition. The deal closes in 60 days. My mind raced. Robinson Tech, the company I'd helped build from nothing, was being sold. What does Gabriel think about this? Susan's expression was grim. Gabriel is the reason we're selling. His behavior over the past year has damaged the company's reputation and our relationships with key clients. We've lost 3 major contracts and our stock value has dropped 15%. The board voted unanimously to sell while we still can. Does Gabriel know? We informed him this morning. He tried to block it, but he can't. The operating agreement gives the board authority to approve a sale if it's in the best interest of shareholders. And right now, selling is absolutely in our best interest. I sat back in my chair processing this. Gabriel had lost everything. His wife, his position as CEO, and now the company itself. I'm telling you this for 2 reasons, Susan continued. First, because you were a major part of building this company. You deserve to know. And second, because the acquiring company wants to retain you as a consultant during the transition. They're impressed by your work with Precision Financial Partners and want your expertise. Me? But I sold my shares. I'm not part of Robinson Tech anymore. No, but you understand the company better than almost anyone. They're offering a 6-month contract at a very generous rate. I have the terms here if you want to review them. She slid a document across the desk. The numbers were indeed generous. More than generous. They wanted me to consult 3 days a week for 6 months at a rate that would bring in $500,000. I'll need to think about it, I said. Of course. They need an answer within 2 weeks. After Susan left, I sat in my office staring at the contract. Working with Robinson Tech again, even as an outside consultant, felt strange. But the money was excellent, and it would be satisfying to help transition the company I'd built to new ownership. I called Julian on my lunch break. Robinson Tech is being sold, I told him. And they want me to consult on the transition. Wow. How do you feel about that? Confused? Satisfied? I'm not sure. Gabriel built that company into what it is, but his personal life destroyed it. There's something poetic about that. Are you going to take the consulting job? I don't know yet. What do you think? I think you should do whatever feels right to you, Julian said. Not because you want revenge on Gabriel or because you feel obligated to the company, but because you want to. That night, I met Rachel for dinner at our favorite restaurant. She already knew about the sale, of course. The office gossip network was faster than any official announcement. The whole company is in shock, Rachel told me. People are worried about their jobs, wondering if the new owners will keep everyone on. It's chaos. What about Gabriel? How is he handling it? Rachel made a face. Not well. He came in this morning, screamed at the board for an hour, then locked himself in his office. He's been there all day. Security is worried he might do something dramatic. Like what? I don't know. But he's lost everything, Natalie. The company was all he had left. I felt a flicker of sympathy, quickly followed by annoyance at myself for feeling it. Gabriel had brought this on himself. Every consequence, every loss, was the direct result of his choices. I was offered a consulting contract for the transition, I told Rachel. Her eyes widened. Are you going to take it? I'm thinking about it. The money is good and it would give me closure. Help transition the company I built to new ownership, then walk away for good. Do it, Rachel said immediately. Not for Gabriel or for Robinson Tech, but for yourself. You earned the right to close that chapter on your terms. She had a point. Over the next few days, I thought hard about the offer. I discussed it with Julian, with my therapist, with my business partners. Everyone had the same advice. Do what feels right for me. Finally, I made my decision. I called Susan Park. I'll take the consulting contract, I said. On one condition. What's that? I don't report to Gabriel. I work directly with the board and the new owners. Gabriel and I don't need to interact at all. That won't be a problem, Susan said. Gabriel's being transitioned out entirely. He'll keep his shares and get his payout from the sale, but he won't have any operational role. Then I accept. I started the consulting work 2 weeks later. It was strange being back in the Robinson Tech building, walking halls I'd walked for 15 years. But I wasn't going back to my old office. I had a temporary workspace set up in a conference room, and I worked with the acquisition team rather than the regular staff. The new owners were professional and efficient. They wanted to understand the company's financial systems, client relationships, and operational procedures. I provided detailed briefings, introduced them to key staff, and helped develop transition plans. I saw Gabriel only once during those first 2 weeks. I was leaving a meeting when I literally ran into him in the hallway. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in days before, eyes red-rimmed. "Natalie," he said, stepping back. "I didn't know you'd be here. I'm consulting on the transition. The new owners asked me to help." He laughed bitterly. "Of course they did. You always were better at this than me. Better at everything, really? Gabriel? No, it's true. You built the financial systems that made this company successful. You managed the money, made the smart decisions. I was the face of it, the salesman. But you were the real genius. We built it together," I said, because it was true. "Both of our skills mattered. And I destroyed it," Gabriel said. "With my stupidity and my ego and my affair with a girl young enough to be my daughter." "You made choices," I said carefully. "We all live with our choices. Do you ever think about what could have been?" Gabriel asked. "If I hadn't cheated? If we'd stayed together?" I considered lying, but what was the point? Sometimes. But then I remember that the life I have now is pretty good. Better than I expected, actually. "You're with that architect, Julian?" "Yes." "Is he good to you?" "Very good." Gabriel nodded, looking down at the floor. "I'm glad. I mean that. I'm glad you found someone who treats you the way I should have." "What about you?" I asked. "Are you seeing anyone?" "No," Gabriel said. "I tried dating a few times, but it never went anywhere. Turns out when you're known as the CEO who threw away his marriage for an intern, women aren't exactly lining up." Despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy. "You'll find someone eventually. You just need to figure out who you are without Robinson Tech first." "That's the problem," Gabriel said quietly. "Robinson Tech was who I was. Now it's being sold and I don't know what's left." "There's always something left," I said. "You just have to look for it." We stood there for a moment, two people who'd shared 15 years of their lives, now strangers in a hallway. "I should go," I said finally. "Natalie?" Gabriel called as I started to walk away. "Thank you. For not hating me. For being kind even when I don't deserve it." "Everyone deserves kindness," I said. "Even people who make mistakes." I walked away, leaving Gabriel standing alone in the hallway. I didn't look back. As the weeks passed, my consulting work progressed smoothly. The acquisition team was impressed with the systems I'd built, and several of them asked if they could hire me for future projects after the Robinson Tech transition was complete. My regular business with Precision Financial Partners was thriving too. We'd expanded to 5 employees and were looking at renting additional office space. I was busier than I'd ever been, but it was good busy. Purposeful busy. Julian and I were talking about moving in together permanently, maybe buying a house. Nothing was decided yet, but the conversations felt natural, comfortable. Not rushed like things had been with Gabriel toward the end. One afternoon, about 4 months into the consulting contract, Susan Park called me into a private meeting. "The sale is almost complete," she said. "Just a few more weeks of paperwork. But I wanted to give you a heads up about something. Gabriel is in financial trouble." I frowned. "How is that possible?" "He's getting a huge payout from the sale. He took out massive loans against his shares over the past year," Susan explained. "Trying to maintain his lifestyle after the divorce, after losing his CEO salary. When the sale goes through, most of his payout will go directly to creditors. He'll end up with maybe $5 million after everything's settled." $5 million was still a lot of money, but compared to what Gabriel could have had, it was a pittance. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because he came to the board asking if we could somehow restructure the deal to give him more upfront cash. We said no, obviously. But he mentioned that he might reach out to you for help." "For help? With what?" "Money. Or maybe just advice on how to restructure his debts. I wanted to warn you in case he contacts you." "Thank you for the heads up," I said. "But Gabriel and I are done helping each other. He made his choices. He can live with them." Sure enough, 3 days later, Gabriel called me. "I need your help," he said without preamble. "With what?" "I'm in trouble financially. I made some bad decisions, took out loans I shouldn't have. When the sale goes through, I'm going to lose almost everything." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said carefully. "But I don't see how I can help. You're a financial consultant now. You help people with this kind of thing. I thought maybe you could look at my situation, give me some advice. Gabriel, we're divorced. I'm not your financial advisor. You need to hire someone professional who isn't emotionally connected to your situation. I can't afford to hire anyone, Gabriel said, and there was desperation in his voice. Natalie, please. I know I don't deserve your help after everything I did. But I'm asking anyway. I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to say no, to let Gabriel figure it out himself. But another part of me, the part that had loved him for 15 years, couldn't quite do it. I'll look at your financials, I said finally. One time. I'll give you my professional assessment and some recommendations. But that's it, Gabriel. After that, you're on your own. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you so much. We met the next day at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Gabriel brought his financial records, and I spent 2 hours reviewing them while he sat nervously across from me. The situation was bad. He'd taken out loans totaling $12 million, secured against his shares in Robinson Tech. With the company being sold for $200 million, his 51% stake would bring in about $102 million. But after paying back the loans and the associated interest and penalties, he'd be left with roughly $5 million. You need to file for bankruptcy protection, I told him bluntly. Restructure these loans before the sale goes through. Otherwise, you're going to lose everything. I can't file for bankruptcy, Gabriel protested. Do you know what that would do to my reputation? Your reputation is already damaged, I said. Right now you need to focus on salvaging your financial future. File for bankruptcy, restructure the debts, and start over. Will you help me with the process? Gabriel asked. No, I said firmly. I told you this is a one-time consultation. You need to hire a bankruptcy attorney and a financial advisor. I can give you some referrals, but that's where my involvement ends. Gabriel looked defeated. I really screwed everything up, didn't I? Yes, I said honestly. You did. But you can still recover from this. You'll have some money left after everything's settled. That's more than most people get to start over with. I wish I could go back, Gabriel said quietly. Do everything differently. Choose you instead of Brittany. Run the company better. Just be better. We can't go back, I said. We can only go forward. That's what I've been doing, and you need to start doing it too. I gave him the names of 3 bankruptcy attorneys and 2 financial advisors, then stood to leave. Natalie? Gabriel said. I know I've said it before, but I really am sorry. For everything. I know you are, I said. But sorry doesn't change anything. It just is what it is. I walked out of the coffee shop and didn't look back. That was the last time I helped Gabriel with anything. From that point on, his problems were his own. The Robinson Tech sale completed 6 weeks later. The press covered it extensively, focusing on how the company had grown from a garage startup to a $200 million acquisition. Most articles mentioned my role as co-founder and CFO, which was gratifying. Gabriel's financial troubles made the news too, though in smaller pieces. Former tech CEO faces bankruptcy after divorce and company sale, read one headline. I felt a brief pang of sympathy, then reminded myself that these were consequences of his own choices. My consulting contract ended right after the sale completed. The new owners thanked me for my work and offered to hire me permanently. I declined but agreed to stay available for occasional consulting if they needed it. I walked out of the Robinson Tech building for the last time on a sunny afternoon in May. I'd spent 15 years of my life there, built something meaningful, and now I was walking away for good. It felt right. Julian picked me up outside, having taken the afternoon off from his own work. How does it feel? He asked as I got in the car. Like closing a very long chapter, I said. But a good closing. I'm ready for whatever comes next. Good, Julian said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. Because I have something to ask you. He pulled into a park, one of our favorite spots in the city. We got out and walked to a bench overlooking a pond. Natalie, Julian said, taking both my hands in his. This past year with you has been the best year of my life. You're brilliant, strong, funny, kind. You've been through hell and come out the other side even better than before. I love you. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. He pulled out a small box and opened it, revealing a simple, beautiful ring with a single green stone. Will you marry me? I looked at the ring, at Julian's hopeful face, at the life we could build together. A life based on honesty, respect, partnership. Everything my marriage to Gabriel hadn't been. Yes, I said, smiling. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on my finger and we kissed there by the pond while birds sang overhead. This was my new beginning. My real beginning. And it felt absolutely perfect. The wedding was small and perfect. We got married on a Saturday morning in early autumn, at a small venue overlooking the city. Just 50 people, close friends, family, a few colleagues. Rachel was my maid of honor. Julian's brother was his best man. I wore a simple green dress, tea-length, nothing like the elaborate white gown I'd worn when I married Gabriel. This was different. Better. More authentic. As I stood at the altar looking at Julian, I felt nothing but certainty. No doubts, no fears, just pure happiness. "I love you," Julian whispered as we exchanged rings. "I promise to always be honest with you, to respect you, to build a life with you based on trust and partnership." "I love you too," I said. "And I promised the same." It was simple, straightforward, and exactly what I needed. The reception was at a restaurant downtown, the same one where I'd celebrated signing the divorce papers 2 years ago. Full circle in the best possible way. Rachel gave a toast that made me cry. I've known Natalie for 20 years, and I've never seen her happier than she is right now. "Julian, you better take care of her or you'll answer to me." Everyone laughed and Julian raised his glass. "I plan to spend every day making sure she stays this happy." My parents were there, beaming with pride. Julian's family welcomed me warmly. It felt like coming home. We'd bought a house together 6 months earlier, a beautiful craftsman in a quiet neighborhood. Julian had renovated it himself, updating the kitchen, modernizing the bathrooms, but keeping all the original character. It was perfect. Our home built on our terms. Precision Financial Partners had grown beyond my wildest dreams. We now had 12 employees, an expanded office suite, and a client list that included some of the biggest names in the city's business community. I'd been featured in several business magazines, speaking about financial strategy and entrepreneurship. The coffee incident that had started everything felt like a lifetime ago. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking about it, about Brittany throwing that coffee on me and claiming Gabriel was her husband. It seemed almost funny now, in a dark way. That moment had felt like my life ending. Instead, it had been the beginning of everything good. At the wedding reception, someone asked if I'd invited Gabriel. The question came from a distant cousin who didn't know the full story. "No," I said simply. "Gabriel's not part of my life anymore." The truth was, I hadn't spoken to Gabriel in over a year. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd filed for bankruptcy, restructured his debts, and moved to a smaller city to start over. He was working as a consultant for a mid-sized tech company, making decent money but nothing like what he'd had before. I hoped he was doing okay. Not because I still cared for him romantically, but because I'd learned that holding on to anger only hurt me, not him. I'd let go of the bitterness, the resentment, all of it. Not for Gabriel's sake, but for my own. Julian and I had talked about my past, about Gabriel, about everything that had happened. He knew all of it, understood all of it, and loved me anyway. That was the difference. That was what a real partnership looked like. As the reception wound down, Rachel pulled me aside. "I have some news," she said, her eyes sparkling. "I'm leaving Robinson Tech." "Really? Why?" "The new owners are restructuring everything. It's not the same company anymore. Plus, I got an offer from another firm, better pay, better title. I'm taking it." "That's amazing," I said, hugging her. "You deserve it." "I learned from watching you," Rachel said. "You showed me that it's possible to start over, to build something new, to not let other people's choices define your life." "Thank you for being there through all of it," I said. "I couldn't have survived without you. That's what friends are for." Julian and I left the reception around midnight. Instead of a traditional honeymoon, we were taking a month off to travel through Europe. We'd be gone for 4 weeks, just the two of us, exploring new places and building memories. As we drove home from the reception, still dressed in our wedding clothes, Julian reached over and took my hand. "Happy?" he asked. "Incredibly happy," I said honestly. We pulled into our driveway and I looked at our house. The lights were on inside, warm and welcoming. This was my home. My life. Built on my terms with someone who respected and valued me. The next morning, we flew to Paris to start our honeymoon. As the plane took off, I looked out the window at the city below, getting smaller and smaller. Somewhere down there, Gabriel was living his life. Robinson Tech was operating under new ownership. Brittany was doing whatever she was doing. All of it was moving forward without me. And I was moving forward without them. A year after the wedding, I was sitting in my office at Precision Financial Partners when my phone rang. Unknown number, but something made me answer. "Hello? Mrs. Torres? This is Linda Parker from Business Excellence magazine. We're doing a feature on successful female entrepreneurs in the city, and we'd love to include you. Would you be interested in an interview?" I smiled. "Mrs. Torres, It still sounded new but good. I'd be happy to, I said. The interview took place the following week. The journalist asked about my business, my success, my philosophy on finance and entrepreneurship. Then toward the end she asked the question I'd been expecting. We've done some research and we know you were previously married to Gabriel Robinson and worked at Robinson Tech. Can you talk about that experience and how it influenced your current success? I thought carefully about how to answer. I could trash Gabriel, tell horror stories about the divorce, play the victim. But that wasn't who I was anymore. My time at Robinson Tech taught me a lot, I said honestly. I learned how to build a company from nothing, how to manage finances effectively, how to make difficult decisions. When that chapter of my life ended, I took those skills and applied them to building something that was entirely mine. I'm grateful for the experience even though it ended painfully. Do you have any contact with your ex-husband? No. We've both moved on with our lives. I wish him well, but our paths don't cross anymore. The article came out 2 months later. The photo they used showed me in my office, surrounded by my team, looking confident and successful. The headline read, "From Betrayal to Triumph, How Natalie Torres Built a Business Empire." Julian framed a copy and hung it in our home office. "I'm proud of you," he said, "for surviving everything you went through and building something amazing." "I'm proud of me too," I admitted. That evening we had dinner with friends. The conversation turned to business as it often did, and someone mentioned Robinson Tech. "Did you hear they're being restructured again?" one friend said. "The acquisition didn't go as smoothly as expected. There've been layoffs, management changes, all kinds of drama." I felt a brief flicker of sadness for the company I'd helped build. But then I let it go. Robinson Tech wasn't mine anymore. Its successes and failures had nothing to do with me. "I'm just glad I got out when I did," I said and meant it. Later that night, as Julian and I were getting ready for bed, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked different than I had 3 years ago. Older, yes, but also more confident. Happier. More myself. The woman in the mirror had been through hell. She'd been betrayed, humiliated, dragged through a brutal divorce. She'd lost a marriage, a company, a life she'd thought was secure. But she'd survived. More than survived, she'd thrived. She'd built a successful business. She'd found real love. She'd created a life that was authentically hers. That woman was me. And I liked her. "What are you thinking about?" Julian asked, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. "Just how far I've come," I said. 3 years ago, I was standing in an office hallway with coffee dripping down my shirt, watching my marriage implode. Now I'm here. With you. In our house. Running my own business. Living my own life. "Any regrets?" Julian asked. I thought about it honestly. Did I regret the 15 years with Gabriel? The time I'd spent building Robinson Tech? The pain of the divorce? "No," I said finally. "I don't regret any of it. Because it all led me here. To this life. To you." "Good answer," Julian said, kissing my neck. "Want to know what I was thinking about?" "What?" "How lucky I am. That you walked into that gallery that night. That you gave me a chance. That you chose me." "I am the lucky one," I said, turning to face him. "You showed me what real partnership looks like. What honest love feels like. You gave me space to heal and time to grow." We stood there in our bedroom, holding each other, two people who'd found each other at exactly the right time. 6 months later, I ran into Gabriel one final time. I was at a business conference, speaking on a panel about financial strategies for startups. After my panel ended, I was walking through the exhibition hall when I saw him. He was at a small booth for the consulting firm he worked for now. He looked good. Healthier than the last time I'd seen him. He'd lost the gaunt, desperate look. His suit was less expensive than the ones he used to wear, but it fit well. He looked settled. Content maybe. Our eyes met across the crowded hall. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Gabriel walked over. "Natalie," he said. "It's good to see you." "Gabriel. You look well." "Thanks. You too. I saw your name on the speaker list. Congratulations on all your success." "Thank you. How are you doing?" "Better," he said honestly. "Much better than I was. The bankruptcy was rough, but it forced me to rebuild in a healthier way. I'm working as a consultant now, making decent money, living within my means. It's simpler than before, but good." "I'm glad to hear that." "I heard you got married," Gabriel said. "To the architect?" "Yes, Julian Torres. We've been married for almost 2 years now." "Are you happy?" "Very happy." Gabriel nodded, and I saw genuine pleasure in his face. "Good. That's really good, Natalie. You deserve to be happy." So do you, Gabriel? Are you seeing anyone? Actually, yes. Her name is Elizabeth. She's a teacher. We met at a volunteer event. She's nothing like Brittany. Nothing like the kind of person I thought I wanted. But she's perfect for me now. For who I am now. That's wonderful. We stood there for a moment, two people who'd once promised to spend their lives together, now strangers with separate lives. I want to say something, Gabriel said. I've wanted to say it for a long time. I'm sorry. For everything. The affair, the divorce, the way I fought you on everything. I was angry and scared and I handled all of it terribly. You didn't deserve any of that. Thank you for saying that, I said. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot over the past few years, Gabriel continued. About myself, about relationships, about what really matters. Losing everything was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But it was also the best thing in a strange way. It forced me to become a better person. I understand that, I said. Going through hell can teach you things you'd never learn any other way. Are we okay? Gabriel asked. I mean, I know we'll never be friends. But are we okay? I considered the question. Were we okay? 3 years ago I would have said no. I would have said we'd never be okay, that the betrayal was too deep, the wounds too fresh. But now, yes, I said. We're okay. What happened between us is in the past. We've both moved on. I wish you well, Gabriel. I really do. I wish you well too, Natalie. Truly. We shook hands, a formal gesture that felt right. Then Gabriel walked back to his booth and I continued through the exhibition hall. That was the last time I saw Gabriel Robinson. And it felt like the perfect ending to that chapter of my life. That night, I told Julian about running into Gabriel. How did it feel? Julian asked. Strange. Peaceful. Like closing a book and putting it back on the shelf. Do you still think about him? Sometimes, I admitted. But not with anger anymore. Not with pain. Just acknowledgement that he was part of my life and now he's not, and that's okay. Julian pulled me close. I love you, Natalie Torres. I love you too, Julian Torres. We sat on our couch in our living room in the house we'd made our home, and I felt something I'd never felt with Gabriel, complete and utter peace. The coffee incident had seemed like the end of my world when it happened. Brittany throwing that hot coffee on me, screaming that Gabriel was her husband, destroying my marriage in one dramatic moment. But it hadn't been the end. It had been a beginning. A beginning of self-discovery. Of building a business that was truly mine. Of finding real love with someone who respected me. Of creating a life based on honesty and partnership. Gabriel had betrayed me. There was no getting around that fact. He'd had an affair, lied for months, and fought me bitterly through the divorce. But in destroying our marriage, he'd given me something unexpected. Freedom. Freedom to discover who I was without him. Freedom to build a life on my own terms. Freedom to be authentically, completely myself. I wouldn't have chosen this path. But now that I was on it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. My business was thriving. My marriage was strong. My life was mine. And that, more than anything else, felt like victory. Not the bitter victory of revenge. Not the hollow victory of proving someone wrong. But the sweet, satisfying victory of building something real, something lasting, something true. I'd taken the worst moment of my life and turned it into the foundation for something beautiful. That was my revenge against Gabriel. Not destroying him, not making him suffer, but thriving. Succeeding. Being genuinely, radiantly happy. And as I sat in my living room with my husband, in the home we'd built together, surrounded by the life I'd created, I smiled. Because this was my happy ending. The one I'd earned. The one I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. And it was absolutely perfect.